If you're neurodivergent, this video might come as a bit of a shock, as it did me. The other day, this is about, what I'm doing here is an example of what we call verbal disfluencies, and that's what this video is about. And it started the other day. I was doing some research, and I was transcribing an interview that I'd done for a research project about neurodivergent and the voice. And at the time of the interview, I was talking to a fellow autistic person, and I was like, this person is speaking really clearly, really genuinely measured, calm, all the ways they're talking. I've got loads of different fluencies in my voice now. And then I went back to their interview, and I transcribed it word by word for all the little tiny words that they were saying in it. And I got a shock, let me tell you, because I had heard their voices very calm and measured, but on the paper, it was very clear that they were using a lot of what we call linguistic mazes. That's what this is about. These little disfluencies that are different in people with neurodivergence. So if you don't know me, I'm Alex. I'm a voice coach. I'm a voice researcher. You can find out about me down in the description. But today, we're going to talk about this amazing thing that everybody does, which is why we talk in a way that is less clear than we think it is, and what it means from the research. And it's called linguistic mazes. If you're thinking, Alex, this video, the way you're talking is very all over the place, then you might not be neurodivergent. By the way, it's a test. But if you're thinking, okay, I can hear what he's saying, then you might be. That's the hypothesis. So let me talk about it. Have you ever noticed in your speech that you stop and start? So maybe you kind of stutter a little bit over things, but you might have an actual stammer or a stutter. But you might just you might be like, okay, I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go over there. So you're repeating things, and everyone does this. And it's a type of disfluency called linguistic mazes, as I've said. So it's this idea that you're heading off in a direction in what you're saying, and then you're like, oh no, this is not the right way. And then you finally get to where you're going to say. And the research has found that, which I'll post in the description, there's a lot more of these in neurodivergent speech, and they show up differently. So autistic, those of us with autism, sort of do them more often. ADHD, sometimes they show up more with ADHD, sometimes they show up less, sometimes repetitions show up more, sometimes there's this, you speak so much that you don't actually say anything in particular, because you're just kind of throwing this is called cluttering, different type of, this is a different word, but these are all disfluencies that show up in neurodivergent speech. And the amazing thing that I found in this research is, what if, this is the question I'm asking, what if neurodivergent people, we filter them out? As here I was having this interview with this person for this research, and I hadn't even noticed all of their linguistic mazes. Intriguing. That we don't actually know. There's not enough research into that one. What is their research into, though? Well, there are two types of, I just said, there are two types of speech disfluency. One way of looking at it. There are speaker-influenced speech, speaker-focused speech disfluencies. That's a difficult thing to say. And there are listener-focused speech disfluencies. So speaker-focused ones are the ones that these show up like linguistic mazes. These are ones that are probably to do with the way that we process. So my brain, one of the people in the study I was doing, they said my brain is going faster than my mouth, or a different speed from my mouth. So this idea that you're trying to communicate something here, but your brain is going at a different speed. So either you have more pauses, or you have more words, or you have these linguistic mazes where you're heading off in these different directions. Yes, I'm putting all these linguistic mazes in here for a reason. It's because that's just what I do it normally. But also, that's what this is about. That's speaker influenced ones. I just poked myself in the eye there. Oh my God, Alex, what are you doing? They're like about how you process. And then on the other side, there are listener-focused disfluencies. So these are things like you're having a conversation with someone, and you're thinking about this thing, and and maybe you do this, right? So you either extending the sounds, or you're saying or you're saying but they're not because you can't think. I mean, you are thinking. It's not just about that, but it's like what it's signaling to the other person. Hey, you, I am still talking. By the way, I'm controlling the conversation by saying and these are less. There are less of these. The research finds in, for example, autistic speech. You'll have less ones that are to do with the other person, and more that are to do with the fact that my brain is moving in a different pace from my mouth. Yes, don't do that in a conversation. Just hello. That is exactly the sort of thing I would do. Yes, so that is the link as well. So what does this mean for us? You know, some people, some voice coaches or some presentation people might be like, okay, how do you get rid of these speaker-focused ones? You know, how can you speak clearly without having all of these misstarts and such repetitions and all this sort of thing? Fine, you know, sure, you can do that. But I'm going to say today, I'm going to bring a thing to the table and say, what if we didn't actually pathologize these things? What if we didn't say, hey, this is wrong, and all of the like listener-focused ones going, well, you know, all these kind of ones that are maybe more in neurotypical people. What if we don't go, they are wrong? You know, like what would that mean in the world? Because if you think about it, like going to a job interview, if you're going to a job interview, everyone finds job interviews scary, but if you go to a job interview and you stutter more and you're like, no, I don't really know about this, the person who is doing the job interview is probably going to think, oh, they're not very good at their job. You know, this is because the particular way of communicating, this kind of clear way, speaking clearly, it's seen as you're more competent. But actually, as I've seen within research that I've done and all over the place, like neurodivergent people are brilliant and bring amazing ideas to the table. And there's some of the, like, there are a massively high proportion of entrepreneurs who are ADHD compared to non-entrepreneurs. Like, and it's like, you know, there's a great benefit to going, you know what, that's just the way that person talks. What are they actually saying? So when I'm teaching voice and stuff, I do help people to speak more clearly. But also I'm intrigued as to going, okay, well, what if we incorporated this and go, well, this is a different way of communicating and allows you to actually use your brain in a kind of, my brain went blank there. It went, so that was particularly autistic thing to do, and also ADHD. Those are the two things I have. There are other ones as well, and I'm not those, so I can't speak for those particular types of neurodivergence. Stop talking, Alex. Yeah. What if we incorporated that into the way we communicated? What if you had more people who are neurodivergent on hiring panels in jobs, for example? Because if someone who's ADHD, was having a conversation with someone who was autistic, and my brain just filtered out their false starts and linguistic mazes, because I was listening to what they were saying, and my brain just does that automatically. I can pick things up that people are saying if they're neurodivergent and maybe neurotypical miss, because they're so focused on the particular way that person's talking. Anyway, that is the summary of this. This is one of my research heavy videos. Yes, I don't know what that's the noise for research heavy videos. Yeah. So anyway, this is it. If you like voice stuff, if you like research about voice and all this sort of stuff, hit subscribe if you'd like to see more of those. If you've got any questions about voice and particularly what shows up in the research, particularly neurodivergent voice, but actually I do other stuff, loads of other stuff as well, then post it in the comments, ask me a question. That is all for today. It was pretty scrappy, and I think, given the nature of the topic, linguistic mazes, that's probably a good thing.